Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin Young. He is Josh Tec. Welcome to the commitment catch-up right here on Monday. It's funny, Josh, I was looking at the calendar and I was like, what is it? It's October 9th, which blows my brains. I can't believe that we're already in October. I was going to talk about this in September. It is not. This is now the second week of October, and I cannot believe it, which means, of course, naturally, there's going to be a lot of guys that are making commitments along the way. So we're going to talk about some of them. And we always do this every Monday. So there's a little bit of gap in between. Sometimes guys commit. There could be a guy committing right now as we're recording this that we're going to put on in next week. So I hope
you guys wait to commit till Tuesday.
Yeah, just give us a little bit of runway. We want to give you some shine, but we also want to be time relevant to go through it. So we had a couple guys from last week that committed that we're going to talk about, of course, some commitments over the weekend as well. So we'll kind of go through those and kind of give you our thoughts on why we like them. And we're all just kind of leading up. We're about 1 month away now from the early signing period in November, which is, there we go. I knew it all come together. So ready to get into it, Josh?
Yes, I feel I know it's October because it's starting to get chilly here in Atlanta. And this is the type of weather that I thrive in. I'm more of a cold weather guy than a hot weather guy. So I'm really in my element right now.
Well, good for you. My wife and I went on a hike on Saturday, and we had to come back because it was 100 degrees. It got hotter than we thought.
That sounds like crap.
Yeah, it wasn't great. We didn't bring enough water, so that's why I had to tap out early. I felt like I was underprepared. I thought for sure it was fall. I should be fine. Whatever. Enough of my weather issues, as I was the case.
The hoodie comes on, so that means it's time to talk commitments.
It's an elite hoodie. It's an elite hoodie. It really is. Well, speaking of Arizona, they got a good commitment actually from a guy that's going to school here in Arizona, which seems to be more of a traditional thing happening more and more with all these great prep schools and charter schools and whatnot. But one of the biggest guys there is in the class of 2024 is now off the board. We talked about Emmanuel Stephen last week in Fast Break Friday. He was taking a visit down to Tucson, and the Wildcats got him. They got him done, and he's going to join his travel team teammates, and Jamari Phillips and Carter Bryant going to join them down there in Tucson for really, man, this is a big-time class they're putting together for the Wildcats, which is kind of what you'd expect from a traditional powerhouse. But Emmanuel Stephen, on a scale of 1 to big, where is he on that scale for you?
On a scale of 1 to big, I would say that he's massive. He's not a small guy at all. Like, I mean, I would say that I'm a small guy. And when I went to go take his headshot and went to go talk to him after a game, and I saw him at camp, I was like looking up, I felt like I was looking up at a New York City skyscraper, which I just got back from. So that's a relevant comparison. But he was huge, man. Like, I shook his hand, dapped him up, did all that. I was like, dude, ow, like, geez. I feel he's a massive human being, and I think it's a massive commitment for Arizona. They have, under Tommy Lloyd, they've thrived with their, just look at last year. They played through their bigs essentially, and Emmanuel Stephen kind of fits that kind of guy. He's probably gonna take some time to develop. Tommy Lloyd's shown he can develop bigs, and I think that by a year or two into his college career, I think Emmanuel Stephen's gonna be a guy that we're ranting and raving about in the back whatever league they're in. I don't remember what league they're in now. Straight up, I don't remember. But whatever league they're in, we're gonna be talking about him as a defensive, stopper, and then a guy with an offensive game that can keep expanding.
Sure. There's a lot of guys now in the NBA that are really similar to what Emmanuel Stephen is, right? Like, I think about Bismack Biyombo, like that type of guy that kind of carves out a niche for himself in the NBA as a defensive guy, rebounder. And Emmanuel Stephen certainly has the size that if you're a pro-level team, you want to kind of keep your eyes on. And listen, we know the pro scouts are going to be down there in Tucson. They got so much talent. And like you said, Tommy Lloyd and his staff have done such a great job of gathering and developing high-level players during a short time already at the helm of the University of Arizona. So really good commitment in a class that we just absolutely love. One of the best
classes. Big fan of all these guys. Like, this is a really great class.
Great class, which is kind of what you've come to expect now over the years down at Arizona, no matter who the coach is. Another big commitment and will be an anchor point for a really good class. And we've seen Arkansas pull no punches, and they've been able to land players from all across the country. Now, this one's a big one. Isaiah Elohim is off the board out of California, headed down to Fayetteville, Arkansas to play for Muss and be a part of the Muss bus. This is a huge commitment, I think. Listen, let's kind of break it down for a couple things. Haven't seen Isaiah Elohim a ton. He got hurt, and he was with Sierra Canyon. He's always on teams that have a bunch of guys. He was with Bronny. And at one point, we had him top 5 overall in the country. Now we've got him in our top 40. But listen, he's a guy that is a high-level player, and we've seen the University of Arkansas program develop and cultivate pro-level guys under that system that he has there. We always talk about when we rank guys, we take into consideration where they're going to college. This one feels like we need to reevaluate this one based on where he's going and opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, you're right that he is a guy that kind of, I feel like he's a guy that always kind of had a Batman or a Robin role to a Batman, or a guy or perceived like there was always a guy like star power wise that kind of drew the attention away from Elohim, but he's been a guy that's always stood out to us via film reviews or whenever we have gotten a chance to see him. We've always really liked him. That's why we had him so high. That's why we continue to have him pretty high, despite injuries and not playing, not seeing him as much as some of the other guys. And could there be more? I've never been there, so I don't know. Maybe it's the California of Arkansas, but could there be more of a culture shock than going from California to Fayetteville?
No. Listen, you've heard me say on this. I think Fayetteville is one of the best college towns there is. It's a really, really progressive city. You have a lot of money there with Walmart, chicken companies and trucking companies, and you actually have a lot of like pretty progressive thinking.
I've never been, so I didn't imagine that. Like,
I say this all the time. I would put Arkansas in my top 5. I really would. I love it that much. I loved it when we used to have the Real Deal on the Hill travel tournament there. It was one of my favorite trips to go to every year. I absolutely loved it. I think it's a really cool place. And listen, they're obsessed with their basketball there. Which
I know that.
So no, I actually, anytime a guy commits there, I'm like, this kid gets it. And I think because it's one of those places too that once you go there, you're like, oh crap, this is not what I expected. This is
you get it.
Yeah.
Not to kind of keep interjecting my own biases in there, but that's kind of how I feel like Louisville is, where it's like, oh, I get it. Like this.
Yeah, but okay. Yeah. You know what? Louisville, I feel like on the pecking order is significantly higher.
Sure. Yeah. But it's just kind of like a similar vibe to where you're like, oh, this isn't just like a bunch of country farm. It's like a civilization is here.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. I don't know if we've ever had a Louisville, Arkansas comp conversation, but I like it. I'm here for it. I really like it a lot.
Well, sometimes it's just fun to kind of go where the wind takes you.
It does. We maybe need to have a city draft on our podcast here.
Oh, I think about this all the time. So yeah, I'd love to do that.
That might be all right. We need to put that on the burner and see what comes up with it. All right, let's move down the line. Let's talk about one of my favorite commitments there is in the class, and I've seen Jase Butler a lot out here on the West. He's to me one of the best point guards there is in the country. I really believe that. Illinois, they got a good one. They absolutely got a good one. They broke a lot of mid-level teams' hearts, I think, when they got him. But to me, I think it was one of those things where I'll say this. I was with a high-level coach that's won a national championship at Section 7 in June, and we were on, I don't know, let's just say court 1, and Jase Butler was on court 2. They're connecting, okay? And the coach was like, where are you going? I'm like, there's this kid over here that I freaking love. I just want to watch him again, point guard named Jase Butler. And throughout the game, said national championship winning head coach just texted me. He's like, holy crap, you're right. This dude is freaking good, man. Like, look at that pass and look at that play. And he wasn't a position of need for them, and they were already kind of invested in some other players. But I thought Jase Butler, and to me that, and this coach is a coach that's one of the best. And I'll say his name maybe a couple of years down the road, but one of the best evaluating coaches there is in college basketball. And for him to kind of like corroborate what I thought I've seen from him over the last couple of years was really like, I think pretty impressive. So Illinois did their homework. I don't know, maybe they were there. There's a lot of coaches there at Section 7, but I'd be curious to see when that relationship started to kind of grow some wings. So at one point it was like New Mexico, Colorado State, like high-level, mid-level schools right out here in the West. Like guys that knew what they were doing that were probably really upset that anybody was watching them because they didn't want them to blow up. But listen, we have Jase Butler inside of our top 150 and may actually go up even higher than that because of the year that he's capable of having as a high school senior. But I think this is a significant commitment in the class of 2024 and really one of the more significant ones that maybe doesn't get a lot of burn because it's not a big sexy pickup and maybe a lot of people don't know much about Jase Butler, but I think it's significant enough to keep ranting and raving about what a huge commitment this is for the Fighting Illini. Cincinnati also feels pretty good about their week. They got a big commitment from Tyler Betsey and a player that – did you watch his press conference?
No, I missed the press conference. I feel like I was out and about doing something when this commitment landed. I just remember seeing it and immediately putting it into our commitment catch-up document, I was like, we got to talk about this because Tyler Betsey's awesome. Like he's a guy that I really like, and I think he got a good one.
Eric Bossy tweeted out something, and which made me go watch the whole press conference about how emotional he was, and there was a lot of gratitude, and it was really cool to like really see. He was there. I was presume his mother. I had my son in my hand, so I couldn't hear the whole thing the whole time, but really, you could tell he was really excited, and they're really building something pretty good there at Cincinnati. Again, we talked about Arizona having a good class. Cincinnati's putting together a really good class on back-to-back seasons now. With Wes Miller and his staff are doing some good work up there. But Tyler Betsey, like for you, from your point of view, where do you feel like he helps the Bearcats right away? What's his instant value as a player?
I think it's his size and just his like how impactful he can be as like a forward, in the forward position. They're building, a pretty good depth of size at Cincinnati right now. A lot of good forwards that could do a little bit of everything, right? So I think Tyler Betsey kind of fits into that, and I think that he's the guy that's going to help them, transition into the Big 12. That's not an easy transition to make by any means. It's like
no question,
maybe the best basketball league in the country, or at least has been for the past few years. But he's the kind of talent that will help you transition into that league. Yeah,
the Super PAC conference now, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, seriously.
Let's keep it going. I thought this commitment we're about to talk about is one of the more significant domino tipping commitments there is in the class, because it's a top 5 point guard. I think now we'll start to see, with this position being filled by this school, that it may impact other players and where they go. But I almost said Boogie Flan, not Boogie Flan. Curtis Givens is off the board out of Montverde, and he's headed to LSU. Really big, important commitment for Matt McMahon, number one, and his staff. Let's talk about that. And Curtis Givens, I feel like, am I crazy to think that Curtis Givens, of all the point guards in the class of 2024, over the last 12 months or so, maybe 18 months, has made the biggest jump?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think his game is really transformed into being more of a point guard. I feel like when I first started seeing Curtis around, he was more of just like a bit of a gunner, kind of shooter, like scorer, bucket getter kind of guy. Now I feel like he's got that. Plus, he's got the creation for others. Like, I think his game is really rounding into form as a point guard. And I think this is one of the more surprising ones. If you would have asked me, I would have been like, he's going to Memphis. He's going to Memphis. He's originally from Memphis. He saved Memphis as his last visit. Like, he had talked about that being a plan. Like, I'm going to visit Memphis last and all this stuff. It seemed like, all right, he's like putting this on a platter for the Tigers. But LSU, different Tigers, they got him.
Anytime you can have an LSU Memphis recruiting battle, I'm all for it. I think it's good for college basketball to see that. That's one of those geographic rivalries there that you can get in.
Yeah, and LSU, the staff over there is doing a pretty good job. They got Robert Miller III, they got Curtis Givens. Like, it's turning into a pretty solid class for them.
Well, I think on his good days, Curtis Givens reminds me of Javon Quinterly on his good days for Alabama. Like, I think he's got that type of game and that type of impact, and could be a really significant player for LSU. And so, again, I talked about him being a domino player. He was one of our top 5, but now Jase Richardson's going to make a commitment pretty soon out of now Columbus High School down in Miami.
Yeah.
Most recently at Bishop Gorman out in Vegas. Dale Jones, AZ Compass is on our list, but Boogie Flan and Zoom Diallo. So, like, I think with Curtis Givens off the board now, really interested to see where Jase Richardson goes, and then now how does it impact the rest of the class, particularly at that point guard position as well. So big domino tipper there. Let's go back to the commitment list and talk about. I'll save that one for a second here, but let's talk about two. Again, I don't know what to call them, non-power fives, because I feel like that phrase isn't even correct anymore, but. Let's talk about these two guys, Ian Smikle to Tulsa and Mekai Johnson to St. Joe's, and we'll talk about a 2025 commitment. Let's start at the top there with Ian Smikle that's going to Tulsa. You like this one a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I was a big fan of watching him, especially during the June live periods this past June. I got to see him at Lake Point with Treasure Coast, and then I made that trip down to Florida to Gainesville for the Florida high school coaches, whatever the acronym for that is. And he was really good with Treasure Coast then. So I got to see him a couple times back to back. Really big forward. Impacts the game pretty much dominantly around the basket, double machine. I really like this one for Tulsa. I know a lot of schools like Chattanooga and schools of that ilk were kind of really high on him during those June periods. So Tulsa coming in and grabbing him is a really good one. I like the fit. He's going to be a guy that can really impact the game around the basket significantly.
Yeah, I like that one. Mekai Johnson's a guy that we saw at Team AKT at the Best of the South. They were playing a lot of our teams in the Hoop Scene Association. Mekai Johnson, St. Joe's, really, really fun one here. Good guard, big guard. Thought he had some good moments, some toughness to him. He's the son of Kenny Johnson, a longtime assistant coach from your Louisville Cardinals and other places, Rhode Island. So he's a kid that grew up in the gym, kind of a gym rat, and he's going to go play for a gym rat type of coach up there with Billy Lang at St. Joe's in Philadelphia. So really good one, really significant one. Billy Lang and my brother were assistant coaches together with the Sixers for a long time. So shout out.
There we go. This whole St. Joe's Mekai Johnson connecting us. We're having all these connections.
It is the 7. What is the Kevin Bacon thing?
Oh, seven step. I forgot the exact term, but it's like 7 steps away from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't think of that. I don't know even know why I brought that up, but here we are. All right, let's wrap things up. Get out of this. What's that?
Oh, I was just saying I agree. Like
this got really weird really fast. So let's talk about our 2025 commitment to Central Florida. Moustapha Thiam. Forgive me, I always mispronounce guys.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's a good player.
Listen, I feel like if you're good enough to have a singular name like a Brazilian soccer player, I think you got to go with it. So Moustapha, congrats, you're headed to UFC. You put him on the list. What do you like about him for the 25 class?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's just one of the earliest 25s to come off the board, right? Like I can't think of any other ones, and he is a top 50-ish level guy. He really kind of came onto everybody's radar this spring. I know I was there at the Hoop Exchange Spring Festival, Spring Extravaganza, whatever term it is. And that was the first time I saw him. And I know that was the first time a lot of people saw him too. And he was great. Like he is a legit 6'11", 7 foot, really impacts the game defensively, can score around the basket, makes really good passes, especially at that camp in particular. He made really good passes out of the post. And then he also showed, like, when you watch him shoot the ball, it doesn't look bad. Like it's not like a consistent weapon right now, but it's something that's developable. And he's just so long, so active. He's a guy that's really going to be able to impact the game. Could even be a triple-double threat with blocks, rebounds, points. Really love this one. Central Florida getting it done early, locking up a guy in their own backyard. And yeah, I think he's just a guy with a ton of upside. He's a guy that's going to, as his game develops, he's got a guy that could keep climbing up rankings.
A little Taylor Hendricks effect, if you will, for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Can't wait to see him play in the NBA, by the way.
Oh, I know, right? I saw that Asar Thompson almost had a triple-double yesterday. So, whenever that was, whenever you
against the Suns, no less.
Oh, sorry about your loss. Or maybe you won. I don't know.
It was, whatever. Guys were in street clothes. The Stars were in street clothes for the second half. So, that goes to show you how much these NBA teams really care about the preseason. So, nevertheless. All right, we're going to do it again next week. Commitment catch-up. I think, again, we'll see more commitments happening this week. We got a lot going on at Swanee Sports Academy.
Big weekend
coming up. Yeah, so it should be a ton of fun. And we'll have you covered, of course, along the way. Josh, this is good stuff. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it.
Sure.